Welcome to the Roncast, where entrepreneurs find killer tips, techniques, and tools to start and growth hack any business. Brought to you by one of Canada's favorite business personalities, Ron Davies. Enjoy the show.
Hi guys, welcome back to the Roncast. I'm your host, Ron Davies. Please be sure to subscribe. I'm going to give you some pretty cool stuff here. And hey, what a crazy time this is. Wow, this whole COVID-19 thing. I don't even know what to say. Most of what we've expected to happen with business and with things like the stock market has almost been the opposite of what we expected. We're going to go into this a little bit today. We've been talking about COVID-19 business SOS and what you can do in your business or your startup to not only survive, but thrive in this difficult time. And honestly, I would have expected, as would many others, for the stock market to take a turn down towards depressing and not just recession, let alone rise the way it has. I would expect business to be off. Yet I have a friend that owns a car dealership, and he said the last month has been his most productive month in almost 2 years. There's crazy things going on. What I'd like to do, if it's okay with you guys, is just try to take things down a few notches. You know, people are stressed out. My daughter came over and visited me today. She drove about an hour on the highway. She's spending her time at home with my 18-month-old granddaughter and her husband. Of course, everybody's out of work. And even though she's okay financially, certainly doesn't hurt to have a dad that has some wealth. She's been really stressed out, as many are. There was a shooting in the Maritimes in Canada. A young police officer was shot, and she had children, and she's been shot and killed. And my concern is that these kinds of civil unrest are going to continue to go on. So as part of our COVID-19 business SOS, what I'd like to do is see if I can't dispense a little bit of calming wisdom and share with you what I have. I would ask that if you don't already, to get onto Facebook and Instagram and search for the Roncast and just like the page, follow me there, and maybe I can help you to get through this. And the other side of that, probably just as important, is that I want to hear your voice, and I want to take your message onto these podcasts so your message can get out to the world. I would ask, think about it in a sentence or two that you post in a comment or in a private message on Facebook to me at the Roncast on Facebook. Would you want to perhaps motivate people or inspire them, or maybe bring them some kind of comfort? We've been doing some stuff with Will Smith and quotes from Will Smith. And he's a very well-grounded individual, as you probably know. But what I'd like to do with you today is I found kind of a cool set of pieces of wisdom, pearls of wisdom. And believe it or not, this is advice from a farmer in New Zealand. So don't dismiss it too quickly. Never judge the book by its cover. I'd like for today to not have you concerned with marketing, not have you concerned with your business, but to kind of step way back and look in on ourselves and on our lives and our families right now in all of this kind of turmoil that the COVID-19 thing has got going on. And I'm going to take you through these pearls of wisdom and just pay attention to them, and don't necessarily try to see how they apply to you in a a literal way, but more in a figurative way. How do they apply to your life? So I'm going to go through these, and then at the end, let's see where we are. So I call this advice from a farmer. The first piece of advice is your fences need to be horse high, pig tight, and bull strong. I don't expect that everybody out there is building fences. Sonia and I have a horse, or horses, depending what day it is. And I can understand this in a literal sense, but I try to look at it figuratively. What does it mean to have fences in the first place? Fences are things that either guard things from getting in or guard things from getting out. So when the farmer says your fence needs to be horse high, pig tight, and bull strong, the fence is more than a single dimension, right? It has to be high enough for a horse and have the gaps filled in enough that a pig can't get through, and strong enough that a bull can't knock down that fence. So think about that in terms of your family and how you protect your family from what's on the outside. Not just how you protect your family physically during these times of civil unrest, but how do you protect your family from things internally? The second piece of advice is keep skunks and bankers at a distance. Well, that one's self-explanatory, really, isn't it? And the third one is life is simpler when you plow around the stump. Now, I don't expect that many of you are actually plowing a field, but you can imagine the farmer encountering a stump in his field when he plows it for, say, the first time. And imagine the amount of energy that the farmer and his plow would have to expend to try to remove the stump to get another square yard of ground to grow in, and how much more easy it would be to just go around the stump and allow the stump to be there. So what does that mean philosophically or figuratively in your life? Well, we see a lot on Facebook, and I've been guilty of it myself. Posts go up and the first thing you want to do is lash out at somebody because you don't agree with their opinion on the satellites or COVID-19 or whatever it is that's going on. And sure, it allows you to vent your ego and to be right. But a very wise friend of mine who happens to be a billionaire once said, well, Ron, you can be right or you can be rich. And I think that kind of applies to the stump here. And when he used the word rich, because of who he is, he wasn't just talking about money. We can be rich in love. We can be abundant in family, abundant in joy, just live rich lives. So when you encounter a stump in your life, does it make sense to try to jam the plow through the stump? Or can you just go around it as water goes around a stone in a stream? The water is completely intact once it goes around the stone, and it just resumes its path. Really, all it did was take a little detour. Is there anything in your life? Is there a stump in your life right now that you are butting your head against because you need to be right? Maybe you need to let it go. Maybe we need to let it go and just go around that stump, or just like the stream, flow around the stone. The next piece of advice is a bumblebee is considerably faster than a John Deere tractor. Again, I don't expect that everybody has a tractor. We've got 3 of them here, but a bumblebee is faster than a John Deere tractor. That's one that you can probably figure out how to apply in your own life. There's a few ways it would apply to mine, particularly because I am allergic to bee stings. But moving right along, this is an important one, and this is one for the marketing mind. Listen to this. Words that soak into your ears are whispered, not yelled. Words that soak into your ears are whispered, not yelled. Think about those intimate moments with your loved one or with your child. Some of the most important messages that you've shared with the most important people that you're dearest with have been whispered words. It could be pillow talk with a loved one, or comforting a child when they've fallen and scraped their knees. These are very important. Words that soak into your ears are whispered, and not yelled. About 10 years ago, I used to be pretty prevalent on the marketing conference circuit. And one of the things that I did was a catchphrase that said, in a world where marketers are yelling, people will lean in and listen if you speak softly. And I really believe that. And a lot of the marketing that Rick and I did was whispered marketing. It wasn't shouting to be above the din. We had people lean in and listen. In fact, we had over 500,000 subscribers on our email list to what we were doing. So words that soak into your ears are whispered, not yelled. The next one is meanness doesn't just happen overnight. So when you encounter a mean dog or a mean person, think and realize that they didn't become mean this morning or today. They probably encountered a lot of hardship and a lot of abuse. And you've probably also heard the saying that there are no such thing as bad dogs, only bad dog owners. That could be true too. And this is a nice one. This is one of great wisdom. Forgive your enemies, it messes up their heads. When somebody says something or disagrees with something that you're doing or that you've had to say and they get nasty, just forgive them. Sometimes they don't even know how to deal with it. They just leave you alone. It's a good piece of wisdom. And it goes along with this one. Do not corner something that you know is meaner than yourself. Think about cornering a badger. When I used to live in the Maritimes in Canada, I had a very big wraparound deck on the Cape Cod home I had. And I remember one night I heard a scuffle out there, and my wife at the time said she was quite scared with the noise. So I went outside, and there was a very big male raccoon on my deck, and he was quite interested in a garbage pail that had the compost in it. And he looked at me like I wasn't even there. It wasn't really even a look of disdain. He just was completely uninterested. And when I tried to shoo him away from spilling over my garbage pail, he reared up, and I realized I had done a very unwise thing. I had cornered this raccoon, and I'll bet you that raccoon was 45 pounds. I've never seen one as big before or since, but I was lucky enough to get in through my door as he rushed me across the deck. So I can speak to this because I did corner something that was clearly meaner than I was. The next one is, it doesn't take a big person to carry a grudge. In fact, I would say it's often the opposite. Do you carry a grudge with anybody or toward anybody? Are there people out there that carry grudges toward you? I'm pretty sure my ex-wife carries a grudge towards me. And some of the people that have come into my path in a negative way, that my old nickname, the bouncer or the bulldozer, I had to apply that. I'm sure there's grudges against me. And I used to carry a lot of grudges. And in a time like right now where we're having to cohabitate with people that are in our lives 24/7, it gets pretty easy to turn a molehill into a mountain and carry a grudge. But the reality is, when you forgive someone, you're not forgiving them for them. You're forgiving them for yourself. It's quite liberating. So why carry a grudge, right? Another important one, especially with children, is you cannot unsay a cruel word. You cannot unsay a cruel word. When I was a kid, we used to say, sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Boy, is that ever wrong, isn't it? We all know people that have been hurt by words, sometimes our own words. Sometimes the best thing to do when somebody has you steaming mad is to just walk away and cool off. Because if it's somebody you care about, and maybe if it's somebody you don't care about, you have to remember that you can't unsay something. And now that we have social media, everything that you put on social media can't be undone. Once it's there, it's there. When we were kids, when I was going through school, if there was somebody in school that we bullied or that was getting bullied, those kids could go home from school and the bullying day was over. But now when kids get bullied, they get bullied at school, and then they get bullied in social media as well. Any wonder these kids have such a hard time now. The next line is, every path has a few puddles.